In this video, I'm going to discuss the latest advance at Grin Technologies in regards to the Brompton electric kit, which I have been using for the last 7 years and which has been recommended on this channel. Now, you can be as lazy as this house pet and just buy an electric rig straight off the shelf. You don't need to buy anything extra. You don't need to build anything. You can click on my link below to go to the shop, and I have a separate section for the bikes I recommend, and that includes some electric bicycles and e-scooters as well. So if you don't want to build it, you don't have to. There are some options, but I think the best results, the most powerful and flexible solutions will come from building your own electrified bicycle or scooter or whatever you are building. In this video, I want to show you what's new with the new kit, and I'm going to compare the old one to the new one. The old one, which I still have, is still very valid. In fact, I will tell you at the end why I actually prefer the old kit for the Brompton. Let's get into it. You go to the Grin site like this, and they have the shop link, the shop tab as they always had it. But when you go to the kit, there is the cycle analyst kit, which is the one I have. That's the old kit. And now they have a SuperHarness kit as well. So you know the cycle analyst kit already, but I will go into some details. But the most interesting part, obviously, is the SuperHarness kit. Let's go into the video. And you can see here that the one striking difference over the old kit is that you have a new display. And I don't really care about the smaller displays, because if I want a restricted kit, then I'm not going to buy a Grin kit. Then I'm going to buy something more simple, like the several kits that are available on the market, which are simple plug and play, but you have no ability to overclock. The motor is small and you have very little control over the whole system. For a powerful kit like the Grin, I would want this display, and here you can see the SuperHarness. This is basically adding a second tiny computer or motherboard to the whole thing. So you have a computer here, but it connects to another tiny computer, and this tiny computer connects to a whole bunch of new add-ons that you can connect, that you used to be able to connect to the computer, but now you are connecting them over here. And so the whole kit is a lot more complex than it used to be. The big plus for me is the display. I would love to have a smaller, somewhat more compact display that has colors, a dark background, so I can see everything better, even if there is a solar glare on the glass, which happens in the summertime all the time. So I really would prefer that, but there are all these display options. The controller is new, so you cannot just attach the new display unit, the new computer, to your existing Z9 controller. Base Runner, it's also called. That was the version 3, now there is version 4. And you see that the new one even looks different, and it has a whole lot more wires coming out of it. It also seems to be a little bit bigger. And this is one of the displays close up. This is the medium-sized one. It does not give you as much information as the original Cycle Analyst 3, and you cannot program as much, or maybe none at all. I mean, this was the old unit. This is the one I am using. As primitive and bulky as it looks, it's actually quite powerful. With only 2 buttons, you can really go in and sort things out. Unfortunately, this is pretty bulky for the narrow handlebar of a standard Brompton. Obviously, I could get a bigger handlebar, but with the standard 16-inch wheel Brompton, you would not be able to fold a handlebar that wide. And here is the circuit board that makes up the brain of this new little microcomputer that is added in addition to the big display unit and the wires connected to it. So it can do quite a bit of work on its own without having to go to the computer to do it. And this is the unit again, lots of wires coming out, not to mention that in each wire there's plenty of information going back and forth. This is the tiniest of the displays. I'm really not crazy about it because I like to see everything, how many watts I have. I have a knob. It allows me to adjust the wattage as I ride. Not to mention that the knob is programmable, so if I want to program it to adjust something other than wattage, I can do so. And this is how it connects to this new SuperHarness. Now, on the other hand, if you consider how complex this SuperHarness is and how little space you have on a folding bike, could be a Brompton, Birdie, whatever you have, then maybe this is a reasonable way to go because you are not loading up the handlebar all that much. I have this much space even on my Brompton. And then a lot of the work is really taken care of up here. There are a ton of things that you can change with this new SuperHarness. For example, it allows you to connect lights and to manipulate the front and the tail light as you are riding. I'm not a fan of attaching lights directly to the battery. I have always much preferred to have both the tail light and the front light to be run off of its own battery, so it would not affect anything going on with the main battery. If I run out of electricity in the middle of nowhere in complete darkness, I probably would still have enough light. This is an interesting knob, similar kind of to what I have, except that it has a plus and a minus direction. So for example, you can use it for a throttle to adjust the throttle to give more juice to the motor, or you can switch over to regen and you can adjust just how much of a regen you want to have. With the old kit, you can adjust the regen depending upon how much you are pulling on the brake lever. Some of these features are already there. Now, obviously, you have to have a knob to adjust wattage if you want to adjust it. Other than that, it's very similar to my knob. I like the way it clamps onto the handlebar because you don't have to remove the grip to install it. This is really a clamp that you can just clamp onto the cylindrical shape of the handlebar. And here's another way of doing it. You can also attach a throttle that does basically the same thing as this knob. And here is a light attached also to the SuperHarness, which you can now control. And the light is powered from the main battery. Here is some demonstration of the light, how much you can adjust the light. There's a front light and there's a tail light. I believe there's also a brake light function that comes with this, which is a nice touch, but you can also buy tail lights independently that have this feature already built in. As you can see, there are still all of these kits available with the old system. I'm going to click into the Brompton kit. This is the Cycle Analyst 3 kit. This is the one I have. And I'm going to compare it to the new one, the SuperHarness. This is the SuperHarness kit. Disregard the battery because that's optional. But you just look at the rest of it. You see that the old kit was kind of simple. It has the same motor though. And the new one is full of wires. It's a far more complex installation. So let's configure it. Say I configure one for myself. The motor is the same. It's the Crystalite 20 motor. It's very heavy. It weighs about 8 pounds, but it works like a tank. I have overclocked it to 750 watts, which is more than 50% compared to, actually it is exactly 50% compared to the original. So it can take a lot. I do have stator rate in it. If you read my book, you know the details. You definitely need the torque arms because otherwise you can damage the fork. This is the old controller. It's a very good controller. I destroyed 2 of the old cheaper Chinese controllers because they can leak. If you get caught in the rain, it can get wet inside. That's not a problem with this controller. It's absolutely encased in plastic from all directions, so there's no way for it to leak. Also, connections on it are better than with the old controllers. This is a Canadian product, by the way. This is the attachment that you need. The attachment, I mean, you can see that the old Cycle Analyst is powerful, but it is kind of bulky. It barely fits into the center of a high-rise handlebar, typically used for the Brompton. Do you need some kind of an input? Yeah, I definitely prefer an input. I have a different knob that you can just turn up and down rather than to notch it, go up and down bit by bit. But this one would work as well. No battery for this one. The battery is a separate topic. Let's say I want A throttle I don't want because I prefer the bike to feel like a bike. So I prefer a sensor. When I try to pedal, the bike recognizes that I'm trying to pedal and it adds the electric support. The throttle is useful for some people because they want to jump at a light when it turns to green to keep up with the cars and all that. But I think it's just too much complication. E-brakes for regen, definitely I have that, but you only need one lever because regen is only in the front where the motor is. Now with this new system, you can even connect hydraulic brakes, which is unnecessary and redundant because with the combination of the regenerative brake in the Crystalite motor and the standard grip brake that comes with the Brompton, I can freeze the front wheel. And that's all the braking power I need. I cannot get anything more anyway. Pedal sensor, definitely a pedal sensor. 24 hole, by all means, as many holes as we can get. This may not be so easy to install. It seems to be something that you have to clip onto the crank. So you would have to remove the pedal crank to install it. But at least you don't have to replace the bottom bracket. I don't think there's any other option. Now that would be the bottom bracket. I really do not like that because you would have to replace the bottom bracket. So that's not very useful. So this is the kit, and I came out at just under $800. Without a battery, it's really not a bad deal. You add a good battery today, you can still keep it at $1,000 for the whole kit. Now let's look at the SuperHarness kit. There are so many things here. This is the new controller. It does look a bit bigger than it used to be. There are a whole lot more wires coming out, so there is more complexity. The motor is the same. There are a bunch of cables up here, so this is the new installation. This is the SuperHarness kit. There is one wire that goes down to the motor. That's the same as the old one. I personally like to put some tape onto each connection just to make sure it's not going to get wet if I'm caught in a rainy situation. Your battery is in the front bag. That is not changing. If you want to relocate it on top of, say, a top tube bag or a trailer or behind the seat or whatever, you will likely have to extend the wire. The wire is not long enough to go back that far. It might be long enough to go into a top tube bag if you can find a battery small enough to fit. And here you have all this stuff. Now you have this SuperHarness thing. And I don't see the display, so it must be the tiny one that is attached up here to the handlebar. And here it is. This is the tiny display. All you know is how fast you are going, how many miles you have covered, and how much battery life you have, which is pretty much the same as any other standard kit. It is the same as the Brompton electric that is sold officially by the Brompton company. In fact, what is sold by the Brompton company is probably not even going to show you the speed. It just gives you an approximate rate as to how much battery life you still have. But look, you can click around and you can see some other information as well. So this is more powerful. It's a lot more powerful, as tiny as it is, than the standard Brompton. And this is the magical knob. I have a more simple knob just to adjust the wattage. I think that's absolutely essential because you don't want to start riding at 500 watts. You want to start at 70, 80 watts. Otherwise, you can get into an accident. And if you have the motor mounted in the front, if you suddenly jerk it with too much power, that's going to loosen the headset. So you're going to be adjusting the headset every few months. Here is the whole unit folded. Not bad. Although lots of wires. And here we come back to the original starting point. So how much is this going to cost? This is the starting price, about the same as the other one was. So what kind of a display you want? They set up this medium level display. If you want something smaller, you can even get it cheaper. That's the little display that we were looking at. And I think the tiny display makes the most sense if it's a folding bike that you are working on, like the Brompton. And this is the Brompton kit, and you're going to have to install that SuperHarness in addition to everything else. So you're going to have all these wires going around. As I've said before, I don't like a throttle. I want a pedal sensor. I definitely want regenerative braking, so I want one e-brake, and that's going to be on the left side because on the Brompton, it is the left brake that connects to the front wheel, and the front wheel is the one that has the e-brake. The rear wheel has no e-braking, so why would you want to trigger the front electronic braking while braking on the rear? It makes no sense. You only need one lever, and there you go. As far as this PAS connector, that's the sensor that I want, but I want 24 hole for better sensitivity. Oh no, not this kind. If I can get that simple install, then I'd rather go back to the 12 hole. After all, that's the one I have. And you can see that the line on the left side, that's because it's a snap. You can take it apart, so there are two halves of the disc, and it's very easy to just snap it together. That sensor wire that you see on the top, you can use a wire tie to attach the sensor to the vertical tube. I think it's the C tube, and it's very easy to install. And this is the wire. Nothing has changed from the old system. No battery, no charger in this case. So let's look at the price. Is this for real? The price is actually less than the old kit. The old kit came up to $768, the new one $753. So it's about the same price, but even a teeny tiny bit less than the old kit. In my opinion, you are great with the old kit if this is a Brompton. But if you don't like that big ugly box sitting in the middle of your handlebar, if you want to put your cell phone there, you want to put something else, some gadgets that you are using while riding here into the center, then in this case, I would recommend that you get the tiny display. The tiniest display with this wire harness, so you have a lot of space left in the center of the bar, and you are only adding this little thing, and I would definitely add the knob. Although I would not be using it for setting regenerative braking, I would be using it for setting the wattage. Now for the battery, I have never bought a battery from Grin. They directed me to this company where I bought one of these batteries for $400. They are still selling the same thing for $400. I think it's good quality. It lasted on me for about 7 years. The price, I had a 48 volt kit. It was something like this, not the same kit, 13.5 ampere hours. So it's about $350. Not much has changed. I think I paid a little bit more, maybe $400. So the prices have come down a little bit. I don't know if these batteries have any UL or EL certification, which I'm going to explain right away. It's very important, I think, to have. But I think the batteries are sound and safe. Mine have Panasonic cells. I never had a problem. I've never heard of anybody catching fire with these batteries from EM3 EV. By the way, I'm putting a link to all of this stuff below so you can do your own research and check it out for yourself. You could go to Amazon, and I even typed in a UL approved e-bike batteries, and all of the batteries that come up are typically not UL certified, but then this one is. It claims in the title that this is UL certified, but look, this item cannot be shipped to New York State because New York State is now clamping down on all of this stuff. So there is something fishy about what kind of a UL certification this is. New York accepts electric bikes, scooters, and batteries to ship into the state if they are UL certified. So what's wrong over here? Maybe they are blocking all batteries because they don't want people to build their own. Most of the fires and accidents in New York came from delivery men, most of whom are illegal in the city, in the country, and cannot be ticketed. Because they work with the bikes, they try to charge them faster and overvault them and overcharge them and all of that. So that's where the problem really comes from. But there are also garbage bikes that are not UL or European certified. So in any case, this is UL certified if you can get it in your own location. It's a decent deal. It's much less than the previous option, and it's only $200, 48 volts, 13 ampere hour. So you can save quite a bit of money. This is another one, highly recommended. Everybody loves it, but it is not UL certified, and it does not ship to New York either. So I cannot get this in New York. Maybe you can get it in your neighborhood. This is $300, but you get 23 ampere hours. It's almost twice as powerful as the previous one. You pay less than $800 for the kit, plus $300 for this. That's $1,100. And this thing is going to give you 70, 80 miles on a single charge. That's how powerful it is because it's 23 ampere hours. According to the company, it weighs only 9 pounds. My old battery with maybe 60% this much power weighs 10 pounds. So this is actually lighter. I'm kind of skeptical of the lightness of it, but it's up to you to investigate. So what even I could get is something from Walmart. I'm giving you a link below. This is CE certified. The CE certification is the European certification. but I think it's safe. I've never heard of any problems with either a UL or CE certified battery or e-bike. And I think you are getting a pretty good deal here. 48 volts, 14 amp per hour, even a little bit better than the one I have. And look at the price. It's not even $200. This is practically nothing. I would get 2 batteries. So I'm putting a link below, and you have plenty of options if you want to build a kit. I'm hoping you have my book. By the way, my book is now sold at a half price because I began working on my second book. It's probably going to be out later in the fall this year. Until then, you have my book titled Maximum Brompton, and all the details are really in it. But even just using this video and the instructions you get from Grin should be sufficient. One thing I should mention with Grin is that they send out very complete kits. They don't sell any tools, but the kit is going to include even the wire ties, all the wrapping, absolutely everything you need to install every part. As far as tools are concerned, if you're going to work on bikes, you should definitely have some tool sets, a hex key set and a wrench set. You could go to my Amazon store where I have links to all of that stuff. Okay, this is it for the current video. I hope you are going to have a good time building your own project, and when you're done, let me know how it went.
I'll be back.